A billionaire, Lauren Sinclair, hired a bodyguard, Jake Carter, to pose as her fiancé. But she had no idea that. Before we continue, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching the video from. And don't forget to subscribe. In the opulent ballroom of the Grand Oak Hotel, the atmosphere shimmered with an air of sophistication. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the sea of elegantly dressed attendees, their laughter mingling with the soft strains of a live orchestra. The scent of expensive perfumes and gourmet hors d'oeuvres wafted through the air, but Lauren Sinclair felt none of the joy that surrounded her. Instead, she maneuvered through the crowd like a ghost, her heart heavy with the weight of her recent heartbreak. Lauren, a striking woman in her late 20s, carried herself with the confidence befitting a billionaire heiress. Her chestnut hair cascaded in waves down her back, and her sapphire blue gown hugged her curves in all the right places. Yet, beneath her poised exterior, she felt raw and exposed. The news of her broken engagement to Chad Mitchell had spread like wildfire, and her presence at the gala was less about charity and more about damage control. She forced a smile as she greeted acquaintances, but each interaction felt like a reminder of the public humiliation she had endured. Lauren called out a familiar voice, pulling her from her reverie. It was her friend Emma, a petite blonde with an infectious smile. "You look stunning. I can't believe Chad didn't show up." "Thanks, Emma," Lauren replied, trying to keep her tone light. "I guess he's too busy moving on with his life." The words tasted bitter on her tongue. Emma's expression shifted to one of concern. "You know he's going to regret this, right? You're incredible. Anyone would be lucky to be with you." Lauren shrugged, attempting to brush off the compliment. "It's fine. Really. I'm just here to support the charity." But deep down, she knew that every glance from the guests, every whispered conversation, was laced with pity. The last thing she wanted was to be the subject of gossip. As she made her way to the bar, seeking solace in a glass of champagne, her phone buzzed in her clutch. She glanced down, her heart sinking as she saw the notification. It was an update from the social media feed. Chad had posted a picture with a stunning woman, his arm draped possessively around her waist. The caption read, "Moving forward with someone special." "Damn it," Lauren muttered under her breath, the sting of betrayal slicing through her. She took a deep breath, willing herself to remain composed. The last thing she wanted was to break down in public. "Lauren, is everything okay?" Emma asked, concern etched on her face. "Yeah, just checking something," she lied, forcing a smile. "I'll be fine." But as she stood there, drink in hand, the laughter and chatter around her became a blur. The reality of her situation crashed down on her. Chad was not just moving on, he was flaunting it. The thought of facing their friends and family, of enduring their pity and judgment, twisted her stomach in knots. In a moment of impulsive clarity, Lauren stepped away from the bar and found a private corner, tucked away from the prying eyes of society. She leaned against the cool marble wall, her heart racing. What could she do to salvage her family's reputation? The Sinclair name was synonymous with wealth and prestige. She couldn't afford to be the heiress who had been discarded like an old piece of jewelry. Her mind raced, contemplating the possibilities. It was then that a wild idea struck her. She needed a stand-in fiancé, someone to help her save face and project the image of a happy couple. It was unconventional, but desperation often led to unconventional solutions. "Okay, Lauren," she whispered to herself, her resolve solidifying. "You can do this. Just find someone who can play the part." As she returned to the gala, a fire ignited within her. She scanned the crowd, mentally assessing potential candidates. But as she watched the laughter and joy unfold around her, she felt a wave of isolation wash over her. The world seemed so far away, and yet so close, like a mirage that she could not reach. Hours passed, the gala winding down as attendees began to filter out. Lauren stood at the entrance, her mind still reeling with her plan. Just as she was about to leave, she spotted a striking figure across the room. He was tall and rugged, with tousled dark hair and sharp features that hinted at a life lived on the edge. He was leaning against the wall, arms crossed, observing the crowd with a keen eye. She felt an inexplicable pull towards him, and before she could overthink it, she approached. "Excuse me," she said, her voice steady despite the rapid beating of her heart. "Are you here for the gala?" The man turned, his piercing blue eyes meeting hers. "I was invited. Not exactly my scene, though." His voice was deep and gravelly, carrying an air of confidence that intrigued her. Lauren took a breath, her heart racing with the weight of what she was about to propose. "I need your help, and I'm willing to pay for your services." He raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "What kind of help are you looking for?" "Pretend to be my fiancé," she said, her words spilling out before she could reconsider. "Just for a few high-profile events. I know it sounds crazy, but I need to salvage my reputation after, well, my breakup." He studied her for a moment, a flicker of skepticism crossing his face. "And what's in it for me?" "My family can pay well," she replied, her voice unwavering. "You'll get a taste of the high life, and I'll get the public image I need to maintain." He chuckled, shaking his head. "You really think this is a good idea? Pretending to be someone's fiancé? It's not exactly a walk in the park." "I'm not asking for much," Lauren pressed, her determination shining through. "Just a few appearances, and it'll all be over before you know it. You can go back to your life, and I can go back to mine." He took a step closer, the tension between them palpable. "What's your name?" "Lauren." "Lauren Sinclair." "Jake?" He introduced himself, his expression shifting to one of curiosity. "You're serious about this?" "Dead serious," Lauren affirmed, her heart racing. "I need someone who can handle themselves in public. Someone who won't back down when the questions start coming." Jake studied her for a long moment, weighing the proposal. "All right, Lauren, I'll do it. But understand this isn't a game for me. I'm not here to play pretend. If we're doing this, we're doing it right." Lauren felt a rush of relief wash over her. "Thank you, Jake. I promise you won't regret it." As they shook hands, the gravity of their arrangement settled around them. It was a strange alliance, one born out of desperation and need. Yet, as Lauren looked into Jake's eyes, she sensed that this unconventional partnership might lead them to unexpected places. Little did she know, the lines between pretense and reality would soon begin to blur, setting the stage for a whirlwind of emotions neither of them anticipated. The night air was electric as they stepped into the opulent ballroom, a dazzling array of chandeliers glittering above them, casting a warm glow over the elegantly dressed crowd. Lauren felt the familiar rush of anxiety wash over her, but this time, she wasn't alone. Jake stood beside her, his presence a steady anchor amid the swirling chaos of the gala. She glanced at him, taking in his rugged charm, a stark contrast to the polished, preened men of her past. His black suit, tailored but not ostentatious, highlighted his strong build, and for the first time in weeks, she felt a flicker of excitement replace her lingering heartache. "Ready for this?" Jake asked, his voice low and reassuring. He met her gaze, his blue eyes steady, betraying nothing but confidence. Lauren took a deep breath, forcing a smile. "As ready as I'll ever be. Just remember your part." He chuckled softly. "I'm just here to play the role of the perfect fiancé. How hard can that be? Let's hope it's easier than pretending to love Chad." She shot back, her voice laced with sarcasm. The mention of her ex-fiancé twisted her stomach, but she quickly pushed the thought away. Tonight was about maintaining the facade, and she needed Jake to be convincing. As they wove through the crowd, Lauren felt eyes on them. Curious, judging, whispering. The rich and powerful often thrived on gossip, and she was determined to redirect the narrative surrounding her. With Jake at her side, the whispers morphed into intrigue, the kind that would keep her family's name out of scandal's grasp. "Who's that?" A voice floated past them, dripping with curiosity. "Is that the new fiancé? I thought she was with Chad." Lauren stiffened but felt Jake's hand subtly brush against her back, a grounding touch that prompted her to keep moving. They approached a small group of her family's associates, and as they stepped into the circle, the atmosphere shifted. "Lauren, so lovely to see you," one woman exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with interest as they settled in. "And this must be your new fiancé. What's your name again?" "Jake," he said smoothly, extending his hand. The warmth in his grip contrasted the chill of the room, and Lauren couldn't help but admire how effortlessly he engaged with the crowd. "Jake, a pleasure," the woman replied, her smile widening. "You must be a breath of fresh air after Chad." "Let's just say I'm here to make sure Lauren can focus on what really matters," Jake replied, his tone light, but Lauren caught the slight edge in his voice, an unspoken promise of protection. "Quite the task, I'm sure," the woman said, her gaze flitting between them. "Lauren needs someone strong and dependable. You seem to fit the bill." As the conversation flowed, Lauren felt an unexpected sense of relief wash over her. Jake was playing his part flawlessly, and the way he interacted with others felt refreshingly genuine. She found herself laughing, the tension in her shoulders easing ever so slightly. Later in the evening, as the music swelled and couples began to take to the dance floor, Jake leaned in closer. "You're really good at this," he murmured, his breath warm against her ear. "I'm impressed." Lauren met his gaze, her heart racing. "You're not so bad yourself. Who knew you had such charm hidden under all that bravado?" He smirked, a playful glint in his eye. "Just wait until I show you my dance moves. You might reconsider your opinion." As the music shifted to a slow, romantic melody, a familiar figure emerged from the crowd, Chad. He strode toward them, his presence commanding, a predatory smile on his lips. In an instant, the tension in the air thickened, and Lauren felt her stomach drop. "Lauren, fancy seeing you here," Chad said, his voice dripping with feigned sweetness. "And who's this? Your new boyfriend?" "Fiancé," Lauren corrected, forcing confidence into her voice. "This is Jake. We're very happy together." Chad's smile widened, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Happy? Huh? Well, I suppose you need to move on eventually." It was quite the spectacle, our breakup. Jake stepped forward, his posture radiating protectiveness. "Let's not dwell on the past, Chad. Lauren deserves to look forward, not back. Is that so?" Chad replied, a challenge lacing his tone. "I just hope you're not using her for her money. That would be quite embarrassing, wouldn't it?" Lauren felt the heat rising in her cheeks, anger bubbling beneath the surface. "Jake isn't using me for anything. He's here because he wants to be." "Of course, he is," Chad said, his condescension palpable. "Just remember, you don't know his true intentions. People can be very deceitful." Jake's jaw tightened, but before he could respond, Lauren stepped in. "You're the last person to lecture me about deceit, Chad. Your actions speak volumes." Chad faltered for a moment, the confidence wavering as he glanced around. "You'll regret this, Lauren. I hope you're prepared for the consequences." With that, he turned on his heel and walked away, leaving a cloud of tension in his wake. Lauren exhaled sharply, her heart racing. "Are you okay?" Jake asked, his voice low and steady. "Yeah, I can't believe he's still trying to manipulate me," she said, frustration evident in her tone. "But thank you for standing up for me." "Anytime," he replied, his expression softening. "You deserve to be treated with respect." As they returned to the dance floor, Lauren felt a rush of gratitude for Jake's support. They melted into the rhythm of the music, their bodies swaying together as if they were the only two people in the world. Lost in the moment, Lauren leaned into him, feeling the warmth of his body enveloping her like a protective shield. "Did you ever think you'd be dancing with a fake fiancé at a gala?" Jake joked, his breath warm against her ear. Lauren laughed softly, shaking her head. "No, but I think I'm starting to like this arrangement more than I expected." Jake's gaze turned serious, and for a moment, the playful banter faded. "I'm glad to hear that. I want to make this as easy for you as possible." "Why do you care so much?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. "You could easily walk away from this. It's not like you need the money." He hesitated, the weight of his answer hanging in the air. "Let's just say I understand what it means to protect someone. You're worth it." The sincerity in his voice sent a thrill through her, and in that moment, the line between pretense and reality began to blur. As they continued to dance, the world around them faded, and all that remained was the undeniable connection building between them. Yet, beneath the surface of their blossoming chemistry, Jake wrestled with a growing conflict. He had come here to fulfill a mission, to keep Lauren safe from the fallout of her broken engagement, but as he held her close, he felt an overwhelming urge to protect her from more than just Chad. The deeper he delved into her world, the more he found himself drawn to her spirit, her strength, and the vulnerability that lurked just beneath her confident exterior. But as the music faded and the evening drew to a close, Jake couldn't shake the nagging feeling that he was treading dangerous waters. With every moment they spent together, he was reminded of his true purpose, and the secret he harbored threatened to unravel everything they had begun to build. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over the sprawling estate, Lauren and Jake found themselves in the garden, the soft scent of blooming jasmine enveloping them. They had been rehearsing their roles as a couple for the upcoming charity gala, where they would need to display their affection convincingly to the cameras and the guests. The air was thick with anticipation, but also an undeniable tension, one that seemed to grow with each passing moment they spent together. "Okay, let's try it again," Lauren said, her voice steady despite the flutter in her chest. She stepped closer, her hazel eyes locking onto Jake's deep blue ones. "Remember, we're not just pretending. We need to make it believable." Jake nodded, a faint smile crossing his rugged face. "Right, just like we practiced. But you have to give me something to work with, Lauren. You're too serious." "Serious?" she echoed, arching an eyebrow. "I'm trying to save my family's reputation here, not put on a show for the tabloids." "Exactly," Jake replied, his tone teasing. "So let's give them a show worth watching." With a sigh, Lauren relented, feeling a rush of warmth at his easy confidence. "Fine. Show me what you've got, Mr. Security Expert." Jake's expression shifted, and he stepped forward, taking her hand in his. The gentle pressure of his grip sent a thrill coursing through her. "This is how it goes," he murmured, leaning closer as if the world outside their bubble were fading away. "I'll pull you in, and you'll look up at me like I'm the only one who matters." Before she could respond, Jake closed the distance, his lips brushing against hers in a tender, tentative kiss. Lauren's heart raced, and for a moment, it felt real, more than just a facade. She melted into him, her hands finding their way to his shoulders as she deepened the kiss, losing herself in the moment. When they finally pulled apart, breathless, Lauren looked up at him, her cheeks flushed. "That was good," she admitted, a smile breaking across her face. "Just good," Jake teased, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "I was going for great." "All right, great it is," she replied, her heart fluttering at the banter. But the laughter faded as a shadow crossed her mind. "But we have to keep this professional. I can't afford to lose focus." "Not now." Jake's expression softened, and he nodded, the playful glint in his eyes replaced by an earnest gaze. "I get it, but it's not easy pretending when we're right here, like this." Lauren glanced away, feeling the weight of his words. She had begun to realize that her feelings for Jake were becoming complicated. He was more than just a hired hand. He was someone who made her laugh, who listened to her, and who, in moments like these, made her feel alive again. But could she trust him? Would he still be there when the charade was over? As they returned indoors, the atmosphere shifted. The extravagant decor of the gala was a stark reminder of the world they were navigating. The elegant chandeliers sparkled, and the hushed conversations of the elite filled the air, creating a symphony of clinking glasses and soft laughter. "Lauren!" a voice called out, cutting through her thoughts. It was her mother, Evelyn, making her way through the crowd, a bright smile plastered on her face. "Oh, there you are. I was just telling everyone about your new boyfriend. So charming." Jake stiffened beside her, and Lauren felt a rush of anxiety. "Mom, let's not call him that in front of—" "Nonsense," Evelyn interrupted, her eyes gleaming with pride. "Everyone wants to hear about your love life, dear. It's the talk of the town." "Right," Jake said, forcing a smile, happy to be part of the gossip. As her mother engaged Jake in small talk, Lauren felt a pang of regret. She should have prepared him better for this. He was not just a prop. He was a person, and she had dragged him into a world where appearances were everything. "Have you two picked a date for the wedding yet?" Evelyn's voice was light, but Lauren could see the glimmer of hope in her eyes. We're still figuring things out," Jake replied smoothly, his demeanor unwavering. "No rush, right?" Lauren shot him a grateful look, impressed by his ability to handle the pressure. But as the evening wore on, she couldn't shake the feeling of unease that settled in her stomach. She noticed Jake's occasional glances toward the entrance, his posture tense whenever someone new arrived. It was as if he were on high alert, and it unsettled her. Later that evening, when they retreated to a quieter corner of the venue, Lauren finally voiced her concerns. "Jake, are you all right? You've been acting different," he sighed, running a hand through his tousled hair. "It's just Chad. I didn't expect to see him here." Lauren stiffened at the mention of her ex-fiancé. "What do you mean? Is he here?" Jake nodded, his expression serious. "I saw him come in earlier. He's been making waves in the media, and I'm worried he'll try to stir up trouble." "Trouble?" Lauren echoed, her heart racing. "What kind of trouble?" "Just be careful. He's unpredictable, and you know how he can twist things to his advantage," Jake said, his voice low and intense. "I'm here to protect you, even if it means playing the part." Lauren felt a rush of gratitude mixed with anxiety. She didn't want to think about Chad's possible schemes, but Jake's concern made her realize how precarious her situation was. "You really care, don't you?" she ventured, her voice softer now. "Of course I do," he replied quickly, his gaze piercing. "This is more than just a job to me. Your safety is important, Lauren." Before she could respond, the sound of laughter drew their attention. A group of guests had gathered nearby, and Lauren recognized the unmistakable voice of Chad. "And there's my favorite heiress," he called out, striding toward them with that infuriatingly charming grin. Lauren's heart sank. "Jake, stay close," she whispered, instinctively reaching for his hand. "Always," he replied, his tone fierce as he positioned himself slightly in front of her, a silent barrier against the past that threatened to intrude. "Chad," Lauren said, forcing a smile as he approached. "What a surprise." "Surprise? You're the one who's been making headlines, Lauren," he said smoothly, his eyes glinting with arrogance. "And with a new boyfriend, no less." "How delightful." "Just a friend," she corrected, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. "We're here for charity, as you should be." Chad laughed, a hollow sound. "Charity? Or a desperate attempt to save face? I hear your family is in quite a predicament these days." "Leave my family out of this," Lauren replied sharply, feeling an urge to protect the reputation her family had built over decades. Jake moved closer, the heat radiating from him palpable. "Why don't you step back, Chad? You're out of your depth here." Chad's gaze flickered between them, a mixture of surprise and anger flashing in his eyes. "Oh, is that right? The hired muscle thinks he can intimidate me? How quaint." "Intimidation isn't my style," Jake said, a steely calm in his voice. "But I will protect Lauren, no matter what it takes." "Protect her? From what? A little gossip?" Chad chuckled derisively, but there was an edge to his laughter that sent a chill down Lauren's spine. "Gossip can be dangerous," Jake replied, his body tense and ready. "You know that better than anyone." Lauren's heart raced as the tension escalated. She could feel the weight of the two men's stares, each one a silent challenge. "Let's not do this here," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is supposed to be a charity event." Chad smirked, stepping back with a flourish. "Of course, darling, but I do love a good show. Just remember, I'm always watching." As he walked away, Lauren felt a wave of nausea wash over her. "Is he serious?" she asked, turning to Jake. "He can't just." "He can and he will," Jake replied, his voice low and reassuring. "But I won't let him hurt you. You're safe with me." Lauren searched his eyes, searching for the truth in his words. In that moment, despite the chaos around them, she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could navigate this mess together. As the months rolled on, the lines between reality and pretense began to blur for both Lauren and Jake. Their public appearances as a couple had become frequent, And with each gala, charity event, and dinner party, the chemistry between them grew undeniable. They shared dreams and vulnerabilities that drew them closer, creating a bond that neither had anticipated. Yet, beneath the surface, Lauren remained oblivious to Jake's hidden motives, and Jake wrestled with the weight of his secret. One evening, after a lavish rooftop party overlooking the city skyline, Lauren and Jake found themselves alone on the terrace. The gentle hum of the city below created a soothing backdrop as they leaned against the railing, the cool breeze tousling their hair. The stars twinkled overhead, casting a magical glow around them. "I can't believe I used to dread these events," Lauren said, a smile playing on her lips. "But with you by my side, it feels different." Jake turned toward her, his heart fluttering at her words. "Different how?" "Liberating. I feel like I can be myself. Not just the heiress everyone expects me to be," she confessed, her blue eyes sparkling with sincerity. He chuckled softly, leaning closer. "You're still a billionaire heiress, but you're also so much more. You're smart, passionate, and you don't let anyone dictate who you should be." A warmth spread through Lauren at his compliment. "You make me feel seen, Jake. It's refreshing." Just then, a couple of partygoers stumbled onto the terrace, interrupting their moment. Jake's protective instincts kicked in as he instinctively placed himself between Lauren and the newcomers. "Hey, you two. Enjoying the view?" one of them called out, a drunken grin plastered on his face. "Yeah, just soaking it all in," Lauren replied, her voice light but laced with a hint of annoyance. Jake shot her a sidelong glance, silently asking if she wanted to leave. She nodded almost imperceptibly, and he guided her away from the crowd, wanting nothing more than to retreat to their private bubble. As they headed back inside the party, Jake's mind drifted to the information he had been gathering about Chad. The former fiancé had been maneuvering through the media, painting Jake as a gold digger, a mere opportunist seeking to capitalize on Lauren's wealth. It gnawed at him, knowing that the truth was the opposite. He cared for Lauren in a way he had never anticipated, and the thought that she might believe the malicious rumors made his stomach turn. Later that week, Lauren decided to host an intimate dinner at her penthouse, inviting only a select few close friends. The atmosphere was relaxed, filled with laughter and the clinking of glasses. As the evening wore on, Lauren found herself stealing glances at Jake, who was deep in conversation with one of her friends. He was effortlessly charming, and his laughter was infectious. After dinner, they moved to the living room, where the walls were adorned with art that reflected Lauren's eclectic taste. She poured herself a glass of wine, savoring the rich, velvety taste as she took a seat next to Jake on the plush sofa. "Can you believe how ridiculous some people can be?" she said, shaking her head. "I mean, Chad and his latest antics. It's like he's trying to make me look bad on purpose." Jake's expression darkened momentarily. "He's good at manipulating the narrative. But you're stronger than that, Lauren. Don't let him get to you." Lauren sighed, her gaze drifting to the city lights outside. "It's just exhausting. I thought I could trust him, and now—" Her voice trailed off, a hint of vulnerability surfacing. Jake reached out, placing his hand over hers, sending a comforting warmth through her. "You deserve better than him. You deserve someone who respects you and your family." Her eyes met his, searching for reassurance. "And what about you, Jake? What do you want?" He hesitated, the question striking a nerve. What did he want? He wanted to protect her, to be the man who stood by her side. But he also knew he was living a lie. "I want to see you happy," he said finally, his voice steady. "That's what matters to me." She held his gaze, and for a fleeting moment, the air crackled with unspoken words. Then, as quickly as it came, the moment passed, and Lauren broke the tension with a laugh. "Well, I'll toast to that," she said, raising her glass. Jake clinked his glass against hers, but the laughter in his heart was overshadowed by the weight of his secret. He needed to confront Chad and put an end to the rumors, but the thought of revealing his true feelings for Lauren made him hesitate. What if she didn't feel the same way? Or worse, what if she felt betrayed by his deception? Days turned into weeks, and as Lauren continued to flourish in her role as a public figure, Jake found himself increasingly entangled in the web of emotions he had never planned to weave. They spent more time together, movie nights, casual strolls in the park, and even quiet moments filled with just the two of them, lost in conversation. The more they shared, the more Jake's resolve to keep his distance crumbled. However, one evening, while scrolling through her phone, Lauren stumbled upon a news article that sent her heart spiraling. The headline read, "Billionaire heiress in love with a gold digger?" It was sensationalist, filled with half-truths and conjectures that painted Jake in a light she could hardly believe. "Jake," she called, her voice trembling slightly as she waved her phone in the air. He entered the room, a frown forming as he saw the look on her face. "You need to see this." As he approached, she handed him her phone, her heart racing. The article detailed Chad's claims of Jake's supposed ulterior motives, weaving a narrative that left little room for doubt. "Lauren, he started, but she held up a hand, cutting him off. "Is this true? Are you using me?" Her voice wavered, the hurt in her eyes cutting deeper than any accusation. "No, I would never." "Then why are they saying these things?" she pressed, her voice rising in frustration. "Why does it feel like I can't trust anyone anymore?" Jake took a deep breath, the weight of the moment pressing heavily on him. "I need to explain everything," he said, his heart racing. "But it's complicated." "Complicated?" she echoed, incredulity lacing her tone. "You're either with me or against me, Jake. I thought we were on the same team." He ran a hand through his hair, feeling the weight of the world resting on his shoulders. "I'm on your side, Lauren. I swear. But you need to understand that I came into this with a mission." Her expression hardened, and he felt the distance between them grow. "A mission? So this was all just a job to you? Am I just a means to an end?" "No," he insisted, stepping closer. "I never expected to feel this way about you. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." "Then what do you want?" Lauren's voice trembled, a mixture of anger and confusion swirling within her. "What am I to you, Jake?" He hesitated, the truth hanging heavy on his tongue. But before he could respond, the tension in the room shattered as his phone buzzed violently on the coffee table. He glanced down and saw a message from his contact who had been tracking Chad's activities. "Lauren, wait," he said desperately, reaching for her as she turned away. "I have to deal with Chad. He's dangerous. I need to confront him." For a brief moment, Lauren met his gaze, her eyes softening. "Just tell me the truth, Jake. That's all I ask." But before he could promise anything, she walked away, leaving him grappling with the storm of emotions swirling around them. The confrontation with Chad loomed large in his mind, and he knew it was time to act. He needed to protect Lauren from the chaos that was about to unfold, even if it meant risking everything they had built together. The evening air was heavy with tension as Lauren paced in her lavish penthouse, her heart racing with conflicting emotions. She could still feel the warmth of Jake's embrace, the way his strong arms made her feel safe. But that feeling was overshadowed by the betrayal she believed he had inflicted upon her. The tabloids had painted a picture of him as a gold digger, and although she had initially dismissed the rumors, doubt had crept in after finding that damning article. "Why would he do this to me?" she murmured to herself, her voice barely above a whisper. She glanced at the mirror, her reflection a mix of vulnerability and resolve. The glamorous life she had built came crashing down around her, and she felt the weight of her family's expectations pressing down on her shoulders. With a deep breath, Lauren picked up her phone. She hesitated for a moment, finger hovering over Jake's contact. The urge to call him, to hear his voice and maybe even apologize for doubting him, battled against her determination to end their arrangement. Just then, her phone buzzed, making her jump. It was a message from her mother, asking if she was coming to dinner that evening. "I can't face them," she muttered, tossing the phone onto the plush couch. "Not like this." Meanwhile, Jake was driving through the city, determination etched on his face. He had spent the last few days drowning in his own thoughts, replaying every moment he had spent with Lauren. He had felt so alive with her, and yet, he had also felt the weight of his secret pressing down harder than ever. He couldn't let her walk away, not without telling her the truth about Chad and the danger he posed to her family. As he parked his car outside her building, his heart raced. He stepped out, adjusting the collar of his jacket, and took a moment to collect his thoughts. He had to make her understand that he had never intended to deceive her. The feelings that had developed between them were genuine, and he needed her to know that. Taking the elevator to the penthouse, Jake felt a mixture of anxiety and hope. He knocked on the door, each rap echoing in the silence. After a moment that felt like an eternity, Lauren opened the door, her expression unreadable. "Jake," she said, her voice low and guarded. "Can we talk?" he asked, searching her eyes for any sign of warmth. "I don't know if there's anything left to say," she replied, her gaze drifting to the floor. "Please," he urged, stepping closer. "I need you to hear me out." She hesitated, then reluctantly stepped aside, allowing him to enter. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. Jake took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. "Lauren, I know you're hurt and confused, and I can't blame you. But I need you to know that I never intended to use you or deceive you in any way," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "When I first took this job, it was purely professional. But somewhere along the line, I fell for you." Lauren's heart skipped a beat at his confession, and she met his gaze, searching for sincerity. "You're just saying that because of the rumors," she replied, her voice trembling. "No, I'm not," Jake insisted, his eyes locking onto hers. "I've been investigating Chad. He's involved in some serious illegal activities, and he's been using you to further his own agenda. I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want to complicate things, but I can't keep this from you any longer." "What do you mean?" she asked, her brow furrowing in confusion. Jake took a step closer, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. "I have evidence that he's been manipulating the media to paint me as the bad guy. He's trying to ruin you, Lauren. I've seen the way he operates. He's dangerous." Lauren's heart pounded in her chest as she processed his words. "You think he's a threat to my family?" "I know he is," Jake replied, his expression serious. "And I'm here to protect you, to help you navigate this mess. But I need you to trust me." The room fell silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Lauren's mind raced, torn between disbelief and the flicker of hope that maybe Jake was telling the truth. "How can I trust you after everything?" "Because I'm risking everything to be here right now," he said, his voice softening. "I care about you, Lauren, more than I ever expected, and I would never let anything happen to you, not if I can help it." She searched his eyes for any sign of deception, but all she saw was sincerity. "What do you want from me?" "Just a chance to prove that I'm not the man Chad says I am." "Let me help you," he pleaded. "Together, we can take him down." As the tension between them thickened, Lauren felt her resolve beginning to waver. The way he looked at her, the intensity in his gaze, made her heart race. "What if you're wrong?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Then I'll take the fall," Jake replied, his voice firm. "But I believe in my instincts, and I believe in you. Please, let me show you that we can fight this together." Just as she was about to respond, the atmosphere shifted. The door swung open, and Chad strode in, a smug smile plastered across his face. Well, what do we have here?" he sneered, his eyes darting between them. "What are you doing here?" Lauren snapped, stepping in front of Jake defensively. "Just checking on my former fiancé," Chad replied, feigning concern. "I heard some interesting rumors about you, Jake." Lauren felt her heart drop as she realized the confrontation was about to escalate. "You need to leave," she said firmly. Chad laughed, his voice dripping with contempt. "Oh, I don't think so. Not when there's so much at stake. You see, Lauren, I have a few secrets of my own, and I think it's time the world knows who you really are." Jake moved slightly closer to Lauren, ready to protect her at any cost. "You won't do anything to her," he warned, his voice low and dangerous. Chad smirked, clearly enjoying the tension. "You think you can intimidate me? You're just a hired hand. I can expose you both, and it will ruin everything." Lauren's heart raced as she realized the danger they were in. "You're just trying to manipulate me, Chad. You won't get away with this." "Oh, but I already have," he replied, his smile widening. "You have no idea what I'm capable of." In that moment, Lauren felt a surge of determination. She stepped forward, her voice steady. You're nothing but a coward, Chad. I won't let you control my life any longer. Jake placed a hand on her shoulder, grounding her. We'll face whatever comes together, he whispered. His eyes filled with reassurance. Chad's expression darkened as he realized he was losing his grip. You think this is over? I'll make sure everyone knows the truth about you, Lauren. Just wait. As he turned to leave, Lauren felt a mix of fear and empowerment. The confrontation had ignited a fire within her, a determination to take back control of her life. She glanced at Jake, who stood by her side, ready to face whatever came next. Let him come, she said, her voice resolute. Together, we can handle anything. Jake nodded, his expression fierce. Then let's get to work. In that moment, they both knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, their bond stronger than any deception or threat that lurked in the shadows. As the tension in the room escalated, Lauren squared her shoulders and faced Chad with a newfound resolve. The remnants of her previous heartbreak were still fresh, but the strength she felt in that moment was undeniable. You think you can just waltz in here and intimidate me, she said, her voice steady and unwavering. I know exactly what you've been up to, and it's over. You don't have any power over me anymore. Chad, taken aback by her defiance, laughed bitterly. Oh, Lauren, sweet Lauren, you think you're so clever, don't you? But you're just a little girl playing dress-up in a world you don't understand. You think your precious family name can protect you? You're living in a fantasy. Maybe I am, she shot back, her heart racing. But at least I'm not hiding behind lies and deceit. I've seen your true self, and it's pathetic. Jake stood slightly behind Lauren, his heart swelling with admiration. She was fierce, more than he had ever anticipated. He had always known she was strong, but this was a different level of bravery. He glanced at Chad, who was visibly flustered. The smirk that had adorned the man's face moments earlier had faded, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. Do you really think you can protect her? Chad turned to Jake, his tone dripping with contempt. You're just a hired hand, a glorified bodyguard. You don't belong in her world. Without missing a beat, Jake stepped forward. I may not belong to your world, but I'll be damned if I let you hurt her again. You've taken enough from her, and it stops here. Chad sneered, but beneath his bravado, Jake could sense the fear. He had been cornered, and the walls were beginning to close in. Just as the atmosphere grew thick with tension, the unmistakable sound of sirens echoed in the distance, growing louder. Lauren's eyes darted toward the window, a flicker of hope igniting within her. What's wrong, Chad? Lauren taunted, a hint of a smile breaking through her serious demeanor. Are you scared? Chad's expression shifted from arrogance to panic as he realized the police were on their way. You wouldn't dare, he roared, but the confidence in his voice was waning. I just did, Lauren replied, feeling a surge of adrenaline course through her veins. You think you can manipulate everyone and get away with it? I've already spoken to the authorities. They know everything. Just as Chad was about to respond, the door flew open and two police officers rushed in, their presence commanding immediate attention. Hands where we can see them, one officer barked, pointing at Chad. Chad's eyes widened in disbelief. You can't do this, he shouted, taking a step back, but it was too late. The officers moved swiftly, apprehending him with practiced efficiency. What's going on here? The second officer demanded, glancing over at Lauren and Jake. He's been threatening me, Lauren explained, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions within her. He's been involved in illegal activities that could ruin my family. I can provide evidence. Jake stepped forward, his jaw clenched. I've been investigating him for weeks. I have proof of his dealings that can corroborate everything Lauren is saying. The officers exchanged glances, clearly impressed by the gravity of the situation. They quickly took Chad into custody, reading him his rights as they led him away. Lauren watched, a mix of relief and vindication flooding her senses. The weight of Chad's manipulation was finally being lifted. As the door closed behind Chad, Lauren and Jake stood together, the air around them thick with unspoken words. I can't believe it's finally over, Lauren said, her voice almost a whisper. I didn't think I could stand up to him like that. Jake turned to her, his expression softening. You were incredible, Lauren. You didn't just stand up for yourself. You stood up for your family. That takes a lot of courage. Thank you for being there for me, she replied, her eyes glistening with emotion. I don't know what I would have done without you. Jake opened his mouth to respond but was interrupted by a sudden noise from the hallway. The officers had returned, and one of them approached Lauren with a reassuring smile. Miss, we'll need to take your statement, but I want you to know that you did the right thing today. You'll be safe now. Lauren nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. Thank you. I just want to make sure my family is protected. As the officers began to ask her questions, Jake stepped back, giving her space. He watched her, admiration coursing through him. In the midst of chaos, she had found her voice, and it was beautiful. The moment she had confronted Chad felt like a turning point, not just in her life, but in their relationship. Once the police finished their inquiries and left, Lauren turned back to Jake, her heart racing. I can't believe it. I feel free. Jake stepped closer, the distance between them shrinking. You should feel free. You took control of your life, Lauren. It's a powerful thing. Without thinking, Lauren reached out and took his hand, threading her fingers through his. I couldn't have done it without you, she admitted, her gaze unwavering. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Jake's breath caught in his throat at her touch. You're stronger than you realize. I just helped you see it. In that moment, the air shifted between them. The boundaries they had set began to blur as the weight of their shared experiences drew them closer. Lauren, feeling bold, took a step forward, her heart pounding. Jake, Before she could finish, Jake closed the space between them completely, wrapping his arms around her waist and pulling her into him. Their lips met in a passionate embrace, a mixture of relief and longing. It was as if the world around them faded, leaving only the two of them and the undeniable connection they had forged. As they pulled away, both breathless, Lauren looked up at him, a smile breaking through the remnants of tension. I think I finally understand what this is, she said softly. Jake brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, his expression tender. What is it? It's real, she replied, her heart swelling with hope. What we have is real. I was so confused before, but now I see it clearly. Jake's heart raced at her words, and he nodded. I feel the same way. I didn't come into this expecting to fall for you, but here we are. With Chad behind bars and the shadows of their past lifting, Lauren felt a rush of excitement about the future. They stood together, hand in hand, ready to embrace whatever came next. The journey ahead would be uncertain, but the strength of their bond would guide them through. As they walked out of the building, the sun warmed their skin, and for the first time in a long while, Lauren felt as though she could breathe freely. She turned to Jake, relief and joy flooding her heart. Let's plan our future. Together, this time without any lies. Jake smiled, a sense of hope igniting within him. Together, he agreed, entwining their fingers tighter as they stepped into the light, ready to face the world side by side.